I was 7,000 miles from home when I found out my wife had moved another man into our house. And the worst part, I watched every second of it live from a military base in South Korea. I had trusted her with everything: my home, my heart, my future, while I served overseas for 9 months. But the security system I installed to protect her ended up exposing her. What started as a gut feeling turned into a devastating discovery. She wasn't just cheating. She and her boyfriend were digging through my private files, trying to get access to my military benefits, and even faking my signature on bank documents. I didn't scream, I didn't confront. I planned, because sometimes the best revenge is silent. My name is Michael Reynolds. I'm 29 years old, and this is the story of how my wife betrayed me in my own home, and how a few hidden cameras saved everything I'd worked for. What would you do if you found out your partner was stealing from you while you were serving your country? Let me know in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you believe justice always finds its way, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a true story like this one. Now let me take you back to the night I first noticed something didn't feel right. My name is Michael Reynolds. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, born and raised. I've always been a guy who followed the rules. I joined the Army when I was 21, not because I wanted to escape anything, but because I wanted to serve, build a future, and do something bigger than myself. That's where I met Amber. She was volunteering at a local charity event on Base Brown, hair sharp with eyes that looked like they saw right through you, but in a way that made you feel safe. We clicked fast. Too fast. Maybe Amber was the kind of person who made life feel urgent. If she was hungry, we ate right then. If she was mad, the whole room knew. But she also made me feel wanted, like coming home to her meant something. We got married just before my second deployment. It was small, just family and a few close friends. She cried through the vows. I remember thinking, she's the one. She's really in this. After deployment, we bought a modest 2-bedroom house together. I used my VA loan, and she picked out the curtains. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. For a while, it felt like we were building something real. Amber worked as a preschool teacher and had dreams of opening her own daycare someday. I handled most of the bills and the home repairs. We talked about starting a family, maybe adopting a dog. We even picked out names for our future kids. Then the orders came in. 9 months in South Korea. I wasn't surprised. Deployments are part of the job. But this time I felt unsettled. Amber told me she'd be fine. She said, "You've got enough to worry about. Just go do your job. I've got this." Still, I wanted to make sure she was safe while I was gone. So I upgraded our home security system before I left. It was one of those smart setups: door sensors, motion lights, indoor cameras. But I set it up with privacy in mind. The indoor cameras only activated when the alarm system was armed. That way she could live her life without feeling watched. But if anything did happen, we'd have footage. The system also sent push notifications to my phone whenever it was armed or disarmed. Just a simple alert. Nothing invasive. She even laughed about it. "God, you're such a soldier," she said, smiling. I thought it was cute. She called it overkill. I called it peace of mind. The first couple of months overseas were rough, like they always are. Different time zones, cold bunks, canned food. But every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, my heart settled. We'd FaceTime late at night, her time. She'd be in bed, sleepy-eyed, telling me about her day. Sometimes we'd talk for hours. Sometimes we didn't even talk. We'd just fall asleep with the camera still on. It made the distance feel smaller. But then somewhere around month 3, things started to change. Amber's video calls became shorter, then less frequent. When I asked, she said work had gotten hectic. She'd recently been promoted to lead teacher and was staying late to help manage the other staff. At first I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I was busy too. Missions, training, check-ins. But a part of me started paying closer attention, because one night out of nowhere, I got a push notification system disarmed. 11:47 p.m. I looked at it half asleep. It didn't register at first until I got another notification the next morning. System armed, 6:12 a.m. I didn't think much of it. Maybe she forgot to arm it before bed and turned it on again in the morning. Simple mistake, right? But then it happened again and again. And that's when my gut, the same gut that saved me more than once in combat, told me something was off. At first, I told myself to let it go. Amber had a life outside of me. Maybe she had friends over. Maybe she forgot to reset the alarm. Maybe I was just tired, seeing things that weren't there. But my gut didn't buy it. And in my line of work, when your gut talks, you listen. So I started keeping track. Every time I got a system disarmed alert, I logged it. What time it happened, how long until it was rearmed, and more importantly, what day it was. That's when I noticed the pattern: Tuesdays, Fridays. Sometimes Sundays, always disarmed after 11 p.m., always rearmed before 7 a.m., like someone was sneaking in and out while the neighborhood slept. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to see what I was starting to suspect, but I had to know the cameras didn't record when the system was off, but they did log everything when it was on, so I picked a few days where Amber forgot to disarm it in time. Then I opened the footage. The first clip hit me like a punch in the stomach. Amber was standing in the hallway in an oversized t-shirt. Not mine, she was holding 2 glasses of wine. Then he appeared. A man, maybe early 30s. Tall, dark hair, business, casual, like he just left the office. He walked in like he lived there. No hesitation, no awkward, first-time energy, just comfort. They laughed, they kissed. He put his arm around her waist and followed her into my house. Our house. I watched them disappear into the room we used to call the office. The door closed behind them. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just stared. I sat in my bunk alone in a cold barracks halfway across the world, watching my wife betray me in real time. But I didn't cry, didn't shout, didn't throw my phone. Instead, I replayed the footage I needed to be sure. And what I found next was worse than anything I could have imagined. They weren't just using the house, they were going through my things. I saw Amber pull open my desk drawers, the ones I told her to leave, locked military benefit folders, retirement paperwork, a manila envelope labeled VA file, private. She handed documents to the man Daniel. Yeah, I'd learn his name later. But in that moment, all I knew was that he shouldn't be touching anything with my name on it. They whispered, pointed at my signatures, and then she did it. She pulled out a pen, traced something on a blank form. I zoomed in as much as I could. It was my signature, or her version of it. She was practicing. I just sat there frozen, watching the woman I married forge my name while another man stood over her shoulder. That wasn't just infidelity. That was fraud. That was theft. That was betrayal on a level I never thought I'd experience in my life. In the Army, we're trained to compartmentalize, to process trauma in layers. But this broke through every layer I had, and still, I said nothing. I didn't message her, didn't call her out, didn't send her screenshots. Why? Because I wasn't ready to react. I was ready to respond. I knew I needed to get smart. Quiet, precise. I was no longer just a husband on deployment. I was a soldier, and I was under attack in my own home. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling of my bunk, my hands still trembling hours after I watched the footage. The betrayal kept replaying behind my eyes, her laugh, his hands. My signature: I'd faced IEDs, ambushes, sleepless nights in combat zones. But nothing had prepared me for the feeling of being betrayed in my own home. By the one person I thought I could trust more than anyone, Amber. She didn't just break my heart, she violated my identity, my name, my signature, my benefits. Everything I had earned with blood, sweat, and years of service. The next morning, I skipped breakfast and went straight to the comms office. I asked to speak with my commanding officer. Didn't matter that it was Sunday. Didn't matter that I was supposed to be on standby for a training op. I had evidence, and I needed help. Captain Moore looked at me as I laid it all out. Footage, timelines, documents, the growing pattern of security alerts. To his credit, he didn't interrupt. He listened carefully, calmly. And when I finished, he said 7 words that changed everything. You need to talk to JAG right now, the Judge Advocate General Military Legal Services. By noon, I was on a secure call with a JAG attorney. She didn't flinch when I explained the situation. In fact, she'd seen worse. But what concerned her most wasn't the affair. It was the fraud. Amber had tried to access financial records under my name. She was practicing my signature on loan forms. She was attempting to leverage our house, my VA-backed home, as collateral for a private loan. If that loan had gone through, I could have been left bankrupt or worse, dishonorably discharged if it looked like I was involved. The attorney advised me to take immediate steps, freeze all joint accounts, pull a credit report and flag suspicious activity, notify the bank that my identity may have been compromised, and most importantly, prepare for a legal separation the moment I touched U.S. soil. She also told me something that cut deeper than I expected. You need to emotionally disconnect from her. Right now, because this next part, it's going to feel like war. And she was right. Over the next few weeks, I turned cold. Not cruel, just cold. I still answered Amber's messages when she bothered to send them, just enough to keep her thinking everything was fine. Short replies. Basic. Yes, I'm good. Busy lately. Hope work's going okay. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything. Screenshots, alerts, dates, timestamps, video clips. Each piece going into a private cloud folder titled Evidence Amber. It felt surreal gathering intel on my own wife, but it had to be done. Then came the moment that sealed it for me. One afternoon, I got an alert while on break, system armed. 2:05 p.m., followed by system disarmed. 2:09 p.m., 4 minutes later. Another notification, a login attempt on our joint banking app. I hadn't used it in months, so I checked. And there it was, an application for a $50,000 personal loan with my name on it, my SSN, my military ID number, and a signature that looked almost but not quite like mine. She had submitted it that day. She wasn't waiting for me to come home. She was erasing me, piece by piece. That was the moment I snapped, not emotionally, not loudly, just internally. Something broke and something else hardened. The love I felt for Amber didn't just fade. It evaporated. She had declared war, and I was going to respond like a soldier. Not with fists, not with yelling, but with precision, with control, with the truth and the law on my side. I wasn't just coming home to end a marriage. I was coming home to reclaim my name and make damn sure she never did this to anyone else. Once I accepted what she had done, my mission became clear. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to confront her over the phone, and I damn sure wasn't going to warn her. This wasn't about emotion anymore. It was about strategy. Step 1, I met with the JAG attorney again. Together, we compiled a formal report for military legal services, complete with video evidence, digital logs, and copies of the forged application. Step 2, we contacted the fraud division of the bank she applied through. I explained that I was deployed overseas at the time and that I had video footage showing Amber and her boyfriend rummaging through my personal documents. I gave them the timestamps, the screenshots, everything. The fraud investigator took one look at the forged signature and said, "Yeah, this one's not going through." They escalated the case internally. Amber wouldn't find out immediately, but when she did, it would be too late. Step 3, I froze all lines of credit, locked down my credit reports, filed an affidavit declaring that my identity had been compromised. Step 4, I opened a brand new checking account under my name, only transferred my military pay there, and without a word to Amber, removed myself from every single joint asset I legally could. She wouldn't notice it right away, because I left just enough in the joint account to keep up appearances, but the trap was already set. By month 7 of my deployment, I had laid every brick of my defense, and that's when I contacted a civilian divorce attorney back home. A former JAG officer himself, he understood my situation without judgment. He even offered to meet me at the airport when I landed to serve her papers in person. "You want quiet, clean, and airtight? I've done it before," he told me. And I believed him. All I had to do now was wait. During those last 2 months overseas, Amber became even more distant. Some weeks I didn't hear from her at all. Other times she'd send casual photos, her drinking wine in the backyard, lounging on the couch. In one, I noticed something chilling. A man's hoodie on the couch armrest, not mine, too small, too thin. I zoomed in. Brand tag said Daniel's Fitness, subtle but unmistakable. She wasn't even trying to hide him anymore. Good, because I wasn't hiding either. The day I flew home was quiet. No welcome sign, no one waiting at the airport, just me, my duffel bag, and a manila envelope full of signed papers and evidence. My lawyer picked me up, handed me a fresh coffee and said, "Ready to do this?" I nodded. We drove straight to the house. Amber's car was in the driveway. I could see the lights on in the kitchen. She was home. We knocked. She opened the door in sweatpants holding a glass of wine, looking like she'd just woken up from a nap. For a second, just a second, her face lit up. "Michael, you're early." Then she saw the man standing next to me in a suit, the envelope and the expression on my face. Her smile vanished. "What's this?" I didn't say a word. I handed her the papers. She flipped through them, eyes darting between pages. Then she started talking, fast, defensive. "Michael, this isn't what you think. Daniel just helped with some bills." I wasn't feeling safe alone. I cut her off. "Calm, steady. Flat, you forged my signature on a loan. You tried to leverage a house bought with my VA benefits, and you let a stranger rifle through my private records." She went pale. "Wait, how do you know that?" I pulled out my phone, opened the security app, played the footage. Daniel, her, the envelope, the signature. Silence. She tried to grab the phone. I stepped back. "You wanted half, Amber. You're getting nothing. The loan didn't go through. The fraud charges are in motion. The house already up for sale, and everything inside donated to a veterans support center." She gasped. "You can't do that." "Actually," I said, "I can." And I did right then. Daniel walked in through the back door, saw me, saw the suit, and froze. "Oh, I didn't know." I looked him straight in the eye. "Get out!" He didn't argue. He walked out without a word, never looked back. Amber turned to follow him, but I stopped her. "Amber," I said, voice low, "final, you made this bed. Now lie in it." And I shut the door behind me. The silence that followed after I closed the door wasn't peace. It was heavy, thick like the air right before a thunderstorm hits. Amber stood frozen on the other side, probably still in shock. But I didn't care anymore. I didn't need her to understand. I didn't need her tears, her excuses, her empty apologies, because I had already buried the version of me who once loved her. And the man who came back from deployment, he wasn't looking for closure. He came home for justice. Over the next few weeks, things moved fast. Amber tried reaching out, texts, emails, even left a voicemail, crying about misunderstandings, and "we can fix this." She tried to spin a version of the story where she was lonely and vulnerable and confused, but the facts didn't lie. The loan application with my forged signature was enough to trigger a full investigation. The bank moved forward with fraud proceedings. She was banned from applying for credit through them for 7 years. Her name was flagged in internal systems across multiple lenders, but that was just the financial fallout. I filed for divorce, citing marital misconduct and financial endangerment, a powerful combination in our state. My attorney was relentless. He presented everything: the video footage, the forged documents, the witness testimony from a neighbor who confirmed Daniel's regular presence, and the timeline of alarm logs that proved deliberate concealment. Amber's lawyer didn't even try to fight it. They knew she didn't get the house, didn't get spousal support, didn't even get to keep the furniture. Everything we owned together donated, gone, just like the life we built. Daniel. He disappeared the moment things got legal. I heard he bailed on her 2 days after that final confrontation. Moved out, blocked her number, I guess, when the money ran dry. So did the romance. Typical Amber tried reaching out to him, tried getting him to vouch for her. But Daniel didn't want to be caught in a fraud case. He left her to deal with the wreckage alone. And me, I sold the house within a month, didn't make a profit, didn't care. I just wanted out. Out of those walls, out of the memories, out of the nightmares she turned my life into. I packed what little I kept, mostly clothes and a few photos of my parents, and left Ohio behind. I drove west, no map, no plan, just space. I ended up in Colorado, small town, quiet, nothing fancy. I found a cabin for rent near the mountains. Something about the air there, how it bites a little in the morning and smells like pine. It made me feel like I could breathe again. One day I walked into a local veterans center, not because I needed help, but because I needed to do something. I told them my story. Well, parts of it. They asked if I'd consider mentoring younger vets transitioning out of service. Guys who didn't have a plan, who'd been through trauma, who'd lost more than just money or love. I said yes, and for the first time in what felt like years, I felt useful again. Amber faded into the rearview mirror. I heard through mutual friends that she tried restarting her life in a nearby city. Word was she struggled. No stable job, burned through her savings. Started a GoFundMe titled Rebuilding After a Toxic Marriage. The irony nearly made me laugh, but I didn't donate, didn't comment, didn't even watch the page, because she wasn't my problem anymore. Some people think revenge is loud, that it's screaming in someone's face, slashing their tires, burning it all down. But me, I've learned the quiet kind is better, the kind where you walk away with your head high, while they drown in the consequences they created. It's been over a year now. Sometimes I still wake up expecting to hear the dull hum of the barracks or the ping of a security alert on my phone, but instead I hear wind in the trees, birdsong, the kind of quiet that doesn't scare you, it heals you. I've rebuilt slowly, not just my finances or my career, but my sense of self. The betrayal didn't just break my marriage, it broke my compass. What I believed about love, trust, and loyalty, but piece by piece, I've been putting it back together. At the Veterans Center, I met guys who had been through things even darker than me: loss, addiction, homelessness. And every time I share my story of coming home to a stranger in my house and lies in my mailbox, someone nods, because betrayal is universal. And sometimes the deepest cuts don't come from enemies. They come from the people who once promised to protect your heart. These days, I don't think much about Amber. Not in anger, not in sadness. She's just gone. And that's the sweetest kind of revenge. Not destruction, not fire, but freedom. So if you're listening to this and you've been betrayed, if someone tried to write you off, erase you, steal your peace, just know you're not powerless, you're not broken, and you're not alone. Sometimes the best way to get even is to rise so far above the people who tried to bury you, they can't even reach the life you've built. What did you think of this story? If you were in Michael's shoes, how would you have handled it? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you support Michael, vote number 2. If you're not a fan, vote number 7. Don't forget to subscribe to Revenge with Chris so you never miss a powerful new karma story every single day.